Welcome to week 32, Fan Mail Sundays. At Jerry Pallotta. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And I have a website, jerrypallotta.com. First letter I have today is from Lucia from Maryland. And Lucia says, Dear Jerry Pallotta, did you ever write a music book? And the answer is no, I never wrote a music book. But I do have a music tie on. When I saw this letter, I thought, I'll wear my music tie today. That's the first letter. The second letter I have says, Dear Jerry Pallotta, did you ever write a shell book? No, I never wrote a book of shells. I started to write a mollusk book, all animals with shells, squid, cuttlefish, octopus, snail, mussel, clam. I started to write a mollusk book, but I never wrote it. But I did think about it, so look, isn't that beautiful? I could write a shell book. I don't know what kind of shell this is. I'll have to go look it up, but it's pretty amazing. Look how big it is. Another kid wrote to me and he said, Dear Jerry Pallotta, what does your book look like when you're writing it? So how do you like this? Here's my book, Green Ants versus Army Ants. And there it is right there when I first wrote it. The very first thought of it in my head, it looked like that. So it's hard to believe that that book used to look like this, that beautiful ant book. I was thinking I should frame this and give it to my editor so he could put it up in his office. People would come in his office and they'd say, wow, that's what one of the Who Would Win books looks like. Another kid wrote to me and said, Dear Jerry Pallotta, what do you like to read? And my favorite thing to read is True Stories, Real Adventure. So someone asked me what I was reading right now. That's what I'm reading right now. 50 Years Below Zero. This one's by Charles Brower. So Charles lived above the Arctic Circle, way up in Alaska, his whole life. And when Alaska became a state, Charles was the guy negotiating between the Inuits, the native indigenous peoples, and the government of the United States. So he learned the language, he learned all about them, and I just loved reading this book. It was full of facts all about the Arctic. 50 Years Below Zero, one of my favorite books I ever read. I shouldn't read this letter, but the kid says, I had visited his school, and sometimes I manipulate the projector, So this kid says, Dear Jerry Pallotta, thank you for coming to our school. My favorite part of the day was when you made the bee eat my teacher's head. Of course, that's not true. It's just a picture of a bee on the projector wall, So that was from Sam from New York. And then here's another one. This one, kid drew Hippo versus Rhino. That's one of my books, Hippo versus Rhino. And this is Ryan from Pennsylvania. And Ryan says, my favorite book is Rhino versus Hippo. And he says, you inspired me to keep reading and try to write my own series. Hey, that's great. I wish you would write your own series. That's great. I love it when kids said, I want to be a writer. Thank you for Ryan for telling me I inspired him to write his own series. The next letter we have is from Jillian from Oklahoma, and Jillian says, I really love that your Who Would Win books are filled with real fun research. It's true. We do everything we can to try to make the books full of facts, fun to read, full of information. Then kids can go home to their parents and say, hey, I learned this today, I learned that today, I learned this today. So thanks for the beautiful letter. This kid also says, I'm inspired to write my own Who Would Win books. So good going, Jillian. By the way, Jillian asked me about writing his own books. If you go on my website, jerrypallotta.com, and you can get to a video called Research, and you could see how every now and then I go to a museum. Kids say to me, where do you get the information that's in your books? I read books, I read books, I read books, I read magazines. I go to zoos, I go to aquariums, I go to museums. I talk to scientists. I talk to people at the aquarium. I talk to people at the museum. And I talk to my fellow authors. And I also go on the internet. I do anything I can for my books, anything I could to find great information so the books will be fun and full of facts. Hey, here's my next letter. This one is from Michael in Delaware. It says, you will be an inspiration for the ages. I can't imagine writing something like that. I don't know how old this kid is, but he's between kindergarten and 5th grade. I could never imagine writing like that, writing that well. When I was little. You will be an inspiration for the ages. Hey, thank you. Thanks for the shout out. Here's one from Rosie in New York. And Rosie from New York says, Dear Jerry Pallotta, I really like your books. You should write Who Would Win? Batman versus Robin. So I'm not going to do it, but thank you for the really cool idea. Who would win? Batman versus Superman. Or Batwoman versus Superwoman. Next one is from Karen, and Karen is a teacher, and she says, thanks for coming to my classroom. She says, we read Who Would Win books for our zoology curriculum. So how do you like that? The books are so full of facts, the teacher's using them for her zoology curriculum. So thank you, Karen the teacher, for using my books. A kid wrote to me and said, Dear Jerry Pallotta, did you only write alphabet books, math books, and Who Would Win books? The answer is no. I wrote some stories. I wrote Dory's Story, I wrote Go on Lobstering, I wrote some short stories. So here they are. I have a book, they're on my website. It's 30 short stories, Ocean Cousins. I grew up near the ocean, I have 71st cousins, so I wrote 70 short stories. So I just wanted to remind you of that. You can find it at jerrypallotta.com. So thank you all you kids, thanks for those great letters, keep them coming, and we'll try to make every Fan Mail Sunday even better and better. So that's it for Fan Mail Sunday number 32. And follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and jerrypallotta.com. And don't forget I have a bookstore at jerrypallotta.com. Thanks for coming by.